Welcome to this explainer. Look, today we are completely deconstructing the architecture of language. We're not just staring at static grammar here, we are diving deep into systemic functional linguistics to see how a clause actually operates as the fundamental physics of communication. We're going to explore exactly how we mathematically structure meaning to physically drive discourse forward. It's fascinating stuff.
Here's a quick look at the syllabus for today. We'll start with the quantum of information, then look at unmarked versus marked themes, dive into thematic equatives, check out how we layer multiple themes, move on to given and new information, and finally bring it all together with the physics of discourse.
All right, Section 1, the quantum of information.
So, Halliday and Mathewson, they define the clause not just as some rigid set of grammatical rules you memorize, but as a literal quantum of information. Think of it as a dynamic, highly energetic packet. Every single clause has this specific, elegant organization that lets it fit perfectly into and actually contribute to the overall momentum of a conversation. It's a purposeful construction, designed from the ground up to drive a message forward.
In English, we organize this quantum packet by assigning a really distinct status to one specific part of it. We call this the theme. If we stick with our physics analogy here, the theme is basically the launch pad. It's the point of departure that grounds and orients the clause right within its context. And the rest of the message? That's the Rheme, the trajectory where the theme actually develops. By intentionally putting a specific element first, a speaker purposefully guides the listener's interpretation. You're shining a spotlight on that exact piece of information.
Moving on, Section 2, unmarked versus marked themes.
So, what exactly happens when we intentionally shift this structural center of gravity? Take a look at this comparison. The Duke gave my aunt that teapot versus that teapot the Duke gave to my aunt. In that first one, the Duke is the subject, right? It's the natural, totally expected theme. But in the second one, pulling that teapot right to the front creates a highly marked choice. It's basically a grammatical plot twist, and it demands your attention. It creates this massive contrast just by unexpectedly altering where the sentence's center of gravity sits.
These natural laws of grammar predictably map our expected themes straight to the mood of the clause. Are you giving information? Well, the unmarked theme is the subject. Asking a yes-no question? Then it's the finite operator plus the subject, like did you or have they. What about a WH question? It's simply the WH element. The entire architecture here is perfectly engineered to serve the interpersonal function of language. Okay, Section 3, thematic equatives and identification. Now, what if we want absolute precision, like zero ambiguity? Well, we can actually use nominalization to group multiple elements together. By taking a phrase like, what the Duke gave to my aunt, we are packaging an entire complex action into a single theme. Then, we literally link it with an equal sign. In this case, the verb was to the Rheme, that teapot. It's an equation. Theme literally equals Rheme. So, why even do this? Because it adds this incredibly powerful semantic component of exclusiveness. Think about it. The Duke gave my aunt that teapot is just a general action. I mean, he could have given her a dozen other things too. But the thematic equative, what the Duke gave my aunt was that teapot, means this and this alone. It completely restricts the field of meaning. It's a highly precise thematic resource for a speaker who wants to shut down any other possibilities.
All right, Section 4, layering multiple themes.
You know, a theme isn't always just a single word. It can actually be multiple elements intricately stacked together. We can break these down into three distinct structural vectors. First, the textual, which links back to previous discourse. Second, the interpersonal, which projects the speaker's own angle or attitude. And finally, the topical, which is the actual experiential core of the message.
Let's actually look at this builder's blueprint in action. Take the clause, well, honestly, protein you can't store. We start off with well, which sets the textual scene. Then we get honestly, injecting that interpersonal attitude. And finally, boom, we hit protein, our topical element. Now, the absolute, unbreakable law of linguistic architecture here is that the theme extends up to and includes the very first experiential element. And everything after that, that's the Rheme.
Section 5, given and new information.
Okay, so up to this point, we've really only looked at written text, but bridging over to spoken phonology introduces this concept of the information unit. Think of it as an energetic waveform. Information in speech is this dynamic tension between what is already known, the given, and what is completely unpredictable, the new. Now, while theme and rheme are very speaker-oriented, this given and new structure, it's entirely listener-oriented. It's organized around what the speaker assumes you can easily recover versus what is fresh, breaking news.
In actual speech, this translates directly into a pitch contour. Step 1 is the proclitic foot, and that carries the given information. Step 2 is the tonic prominence. This is the main pitch movement that marks the culmination of the new. It's the absolute focus of the utterance. And then step 3 is an optional post-tonic tail that signals further given data. The entire temporal flow of spoken language naturally, almost physically, builds right to this energetic spike.
Finally, Section 6. The physics of discourse.
So how do all these independent systems map onto one another to produce dynamic, real-world communication? Well, in the default state, they align absolutely perfectly. The theme maps squarely onto given information, and the rheme maps onto new information. But, and this is a big but, speakers constantly play with this system. By, say, putting new information right in the theme, speakers deliberately manipulate this interplay. They create deep contextual friction and some truly astonishing rhetorical effects.
Once you realize that a clause is literally a quantum of information, bound by these laws of thematic structure and phonological tension, you can actually start to see the hidden architecture of discourse. So, the question I want to leave you with is this. Now that you know the rules, how are you going to manipulate the quantum forces of your own language? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Now get out there and analyze the energy of your next conversation.